Professor of Policy and Economics of Natural Resources Management at Biotechnical Faculty, University of Ljubljana, Slovenia. He is head of the chair for Agrometeorology, Agricultural Land Management, Agricultural Economics, and Rural Development. His main research interests focus on farm management, coexistence of rural economies, and high-value natural landscape, environmental cost-benefit assessment, and common pool resource management. He is author and co-author of 45 original or review scientific publications and 4 scientific monographies. Over to Andrej sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. I'm very glad to at least virtually once set a foot to India, because personally I was never there before, but I'm looking forward for the chance to be once there. So I'm now, I would like you to, if you allow me to share my screen so that I can start the presentation.
Yes, sir. You can share your screen.
My system says that I have disabled this function, so.
No, sir. We are going to allow you.
Okay.
Now it has been enabled.
Yeah. Now it's working. Thank you. So I guess you can see. Yeah, you can see my.
Yes, sir.
Screen.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So I would like to present you a little bit the situation in the European Union regarding the preparation for new common agricultural policy, which is actually the common policy instrument the European Union is using to direct and foster its agriculture. And I will do a discussion. Has the COVID-19 disease in any way impacted this process, which is regularly scheduled to start basically next year, but all the political happening is already on the road for 2 years. That's it. So just in a very brief few words about the European Common Agricultural Policy. This is one of the main policies the European Union has, and it started in 1962 as a partnership between the agriculture and society based on the bad experiences we had from the Second World War. And it aimed to support farmers and improve agricultural productivity so that the Europe would never again be faced with the famine, to safeguard the European farmers and to make them a possibility to a reasonable living. Also very important are the climate change and sustainability management questions of the natural resources. The development or maintenance of the rural areas and landscapes across the whole Europe, and to keep rural economy, so not only agriculture, but all the rural economy, mainly in the focus on small and medium enterprises, in agri-food industries and associated industries alive. And the Common Agricultural Policy is one of many European policies, but is actually one of few which is completely financed from the European budget. So it's more of the other policies are shared finance, but the agricultural policy is mostly financed from the EU common budget. The instruments it is using are actually threefold. Mostly debated and probably world mostly known is income support. So it's direct payments which ensure income stability and remunerates farmers for environmental friendly farming, for public goods delivery that are not really paid directly through the market prices. The second instrument are market measures, which are actually a kind of a safety net, which are introduced or activated in a difficult market situation, and COVID-19 has proven to be one of them. And the third measure is actually more widely development oriented. These are so-called rural development measures, which are a kind of a national and regional programs to address the specific needs and challenges of rural areas. So these three instruments are, the first two are European-wide, more or less uniform, but the rural development measures are actually tailored to specific regions, to specific countries within the European Union. Well, money is always an issue, and here you have some figures of what amount of money we are talking about. So here, or maybe here, you can see the share between the overall European budget, so the European Commission has to work with, and what is the share of the CAP budget within it. So it's still the biggest budget for the common policies the European Union has, but it has shrunk from being over a half of the total budgets to about one third approximately, a little bit more. And then the other slide is the importance of the different measure or instruments I've mentioned. And of course, you can see that the biggest chunk of it, it's income support. Then there is rural development, which is a kind of innovative policies and investments support. And then we have market measures, which are safety net, and they are actually activated in the need. So what was the situation before the COVID-19 stroke? We were in the process of preparing for the new programming period, which is a 7 years time when the actual common agricultural policy is valid, and it's of course financed. And this started in 2018, when the Commission presented the legislative proposals how the new CAP should look like in the period 21-27. This all was based on pretty intense public consultations in the year 2017, and it set a kind of a framework or a path that should ensure a simplifying, which is a discussion we all the time have, that the common agriculture policy is very complex, it's very bureaucratic process and should be simplified. And on the other side, of course, we all the time want to have the best value for money. So if we pay money to farmers, we should have adequate responses to this. And this, when this starts, so when it started in late 2018, was of course the start of the political debates within the member states, how they should prepare their programs, how should they adopt with their needs for development to the future CAP. The objectives that the future CAP wanted or is wanting still to address are ninefold, and they are to ensure a fair income for farmers, to increase competitiveness, intra-European competitiveness, as well as international trade competitiveness, to balance the power in the food chain. We have a severe problems of the power division between the producers and the trade, so the supermarkets, as we call it, to address the climate change, to foster the environmental care, which is an important part of the CAP, to preserve landscapes and biodiversity, to support the generational renewal. We have a serious problems that the farming generation is getting older and older, and newcomers and young newcomers are not really willing to enter the sector, uh, to ensure a vibrant rural areas, and of course to protect food and health quality. Okay, and then we got it. So the COVID-19, it struck end of February really severely. Here I have prepared a bit of graph. Hopefully you see it, yeah. And all more or less started the beginning of March. So the first cases were already in January and February, but that was still unique cases one by one. But then in March it actually started, and you can see then the growth going into the April, and then kind of a calming down end of April, and now in June. Well, for the agriculture, what's really influential and important is, here you can see the distribution between south, west, north, and east of Europe, and the COVID-19 stroke in the south. Why this? Because you know, we were just leaving the winter period. So from the agriculture point of view, the south of Europe is the only region where the ongoing agriculture production was active. And this is Italy, this is Spain, this is south of France. And these countries were actually at the peak of the first most vegetable growing season. So the closing of the countries or of the regions, of course, caused quite a lot of problems. The cuts in agricultural good flows happened. So the trucks, you can see here a picture. The trucks were stuck on the borders. They were not allowed to stop within the countries. Then, of course, what always happens, we had panic shopping. So the stores, and mainly agriculture products, they were emptied immediately. Then the other problem connected with the securing the food for the general public is that we were faced with delays in distribution centers, because there were no people who were allowed to go to work there at the beginning when this really panicking development started. And of course, there were no trucks coming and going to take the vegetables, fruits from these big distribution centers. And for Eastern and Central Europe, the main distribution centers are in Italy. Then the next thing what happened was, we were immediately facing the shortage of seasonal workers, because these are migrant workers, and the system we have in Europe is people from the east go to work on the west, and then people from the south go to work on the north when the season comes. And now the shortage what we have was the stop of migration, working migration from east to the west. And again, there was the production-intensive vegetable production, which was struck. So you can see fields of onions which were actually not harvested. And the third thing, which was a bit of surprise, we realized how important actually in the agriculture sector the institutional buyers, so schools, public kitchens, and of course the catering industry are. Namely, there was immediate surpluses of the most asked products in this sector. So again, vegetables. For catering industry, it became obvious that the wine is very important. The farmers, the food processing sector was actually in a weak time because of these up-to-the-minute delivery systems. Faced with the surpluses, products were left on the field. The storages went full. So the reaction of the Commission, well, we have or we can observe actually two moments when the Commission reacted. The first action was already in the mid-March, when there was, although if you follow what's going on in Europe, you can see that although we are European Union supposed to be one big unified community of the nations, when the crisis strikes, the borders are becoming very, very much important. Every country for itself, or even regions where especially Italy, Spain, they close their borders to protect their citizens, to actually enforce their national health and pandemic quarantine provisions, because it became obviously that the European Union has no uniform health or pandemic fight policy. So each country reacted on itself, and of course that was one of the action which had to be done immediately, and it happened in mid-March. So there was guidelines put in place to ensure an efficient food supply chains. And then later, when it became more obviously what's going on, where are the problems, the other actions which were directed directly to support farmers in rural areas, which were directed to support market functioning, and at the end, which was actually doing a very good thing of simplifying at least some measures that European Commission has in place for CAP also came in power. So maybe just shortly what these measures are doing or are supposed to doing. So there were, one of the first measure was establishing green lanes on the borders. So all the countries agreed that there will be, although they were controlling people coming into the countries, going out of the countries, they agreed that there will be green lanes for traffic which is connected to the agricultural products. And these trucks mainly, or even trains, they are supposed to cross the borders within the 15 minutes, because otherwise it took hours, sometimes even days. And I must say, in few days, this starts effectively working. The other measure was to declare the agricultural seasonal workers as critical workers. So they were allowed to travel across border or within the quarantine areas, most or less the same way as they were allowed special aids for maintaining the quarantine. It didn't work so well as planned, but in a few weeks time, this also start to function as supposed to. And then the measures which are actually now more taking power and starting to function. These direct support for farmers and rural areas are increased flexibility in financial instruments under rural development, which actually means there is some additional money available for farmers, for rural entrepreneurs, SMEs, in form of cheap loans or state guarantees to cover the cost they had with the COVID-19 disease. Then there is a specific new rural development measure, which is actually doing just giving money to farmers, to SMEs, if they can actually prove that they were really affected by the COVID-19. Then the other which will come interesting in the late of this year is that the payments which are coming from the EU will be advanced, so it will come earlier. The system we have is actually the state first pays to the farmers and then demand the money from the European Commission, and this takes normally up to 1 year to be realized, but now they will increase it. And one important instrument we have within the European Union are so-called state aids. This is money given by the countries to entrepreneur, to industry sector, to service sector, which is one of the time payment you can get, and it's has a threshold. So you can get only a certain amount of money in time of 3 years, and only once for one purpose. Now this is also a little bit loosened, so there are some additional payments allowed because of the corona or COVID. Then we have market measures. So this is a thing I was talking about, so that this is a kind of network, safety network, which is activated when there are exceptional conditions on the market, and the Commission actually says that there is a need for financing the private storage, so that the farmers, the food processing industry, which stores surpluses, which now appeared on the market because of the COVID, they can be financed from 2 and up to 6 months as an additional aid. Then there are some competition rules which are actually very strict within the EU. Now they are allowed to have some derogations, so that especially some sectors where there are big surpluses, the products can be withdrawn from the market, so they are not put on the sale, and they are actually those who are doing this, they are paid for doing this. It's a little bit awkward, but if you look the worldwide situation, but so unfortunately so it is. And then is some flexibility put into the market support programs. So this is actually means that there are products which are allowed to be sold in the so-called school scheme. So it's actually a situation where the public institutions on the very specific conditions are allowed to get the agriculture products, and then there is a kind of a financial support for this, but this is a very strictly regulated market, not to cause distortions, but now they have loosened it a bit for more products which are suitable for this. And then the last mentioned measure was the CAP flexibility. As I mentioned at the beginning, actually CAP is quite inflexible in policy, and instruments which are allowed are very bureaucratic, but now they are putting some flexibility in extending deadline, which are actually not otherwise very strict on one side, and on the other side this is a highly monitored system, and now it is allowed to this monitoring to be less strict in the means, not to be so often, or that the countries need to do so many percentage of farmers to be checked each year. So these are actually the measures which are in place, which are proposed, and during the rest of the year we will see how they will function. And now, what actually will this situation, this development actually somehow shape the common agriculture policy in the next period? So what we observed some short-term developments. Of course, that the horticulture sector is the sector which is most non-resilient to such a very shocking developments. Because they were the most affected. What was followed by the animal producers. So we got surpluses of milk, unexpectedly surpluses of meat. So the wine producers, not now the wineries, which have marketing problems, but wine producers, field production, fruit production was much less affected, or even at the time being non-affected. But this is due to the fact that the pandemia happened for us in winter. So we were not really in the production phase or harvesting phase at that time. Then the second one, the importance of the migrant worker to support the system became very obvious. There were very much political calls of the national governments for the unemployed people. Go to work on the fields, help farmers, they have products which have to be harvested. No big effect of this. The migrant workers who are migrating from west, so from east to west, from south to north, are actually pumping up the system. And of course, the difference between small farmers and stronger industrial farmers became very obvious, because the small farmers are really those who are on having problem. They are actually closing down their operation, while the big industrial and farming sector has more or less well past this first period we can look upon at the moment. Oh, I have to be short. So the long term, there are already known that there will be a cut in the proposed budget for the next 7 years. The programming period, which would start next year, will start in 2023. And now there is a debate. Will this actually really affect the agricultural policy we have? But the indications we can read on different blogs and papers, that no big change will really happen. Namely, the traditional industrial players, so the farmers associations and so on, they're already advocating on status quo in distribution of funds. They are actually starting even to loudly oppose the so-called farm to fork strategy and biodiversity strategy, which is actually running the new CAP program. So they're saying, don't put forward the needs of environment, of the sustainability. You see, we have to produce, because if this happens again, there will be no food for Europeans. On the other side, of course, the new institutional players, so the eco-farmers, smallholders associations, sustainable farmers, are still the same way advocating that the introduction of farm to fork strategies, so the reducing especially livestock farming, dependency on the important foodstuff, more sustainable production, should be the orientation which we should follow. So the fight we had pre-corona will go on post-corona. On the other side, what we can see or could show that agriculture e-commerce will definitely develop and will became new normal. That was really surprising to see how fast the farmers were organized using e-commerce, direct delivery to the consumers. So shortening the supply chains started to function, and this will definitely function on. So some restructuring of the value chain towards more cooperative value chains, so more cooperation between farmers and final consumers will happen inevitably. And the other thing is that the debates, so the emphasis on even more safer, even healthier food are starting to be very, very important. I mean, even sometimes very, very heated. So this demand for farmers, for food processing industry will grow definitely. So to finalize, have you learned something? Well, sure, we did learn something, but probably the time will show how much we really learned and how much will we be infected by this new learning. Because the first shock was forecasting a big change, but now when we are looking what's going on, we already see that we are going to status quo. I mean, trying to get back to status quo pre-corona, as we call it, situation. So will the planned CAP change due to COVID-19? Probably not. Because the present reality already shows that the main institutional players shaping the CAP policy are not changing their mindset. They are still advocating the same basic policy line, politics that they were advocating before the corona. So probably everything will be prolonged for a certain period of time, but more or less stay business as usual. So thank you very much for your attention. I don't know if there is still time for some discussion. I've seen that there was some chat questions. I will go through them and try to answer. So thank you very much.
We'll take question. Hello. Thank you so
Yes.
much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Sir has given a very detailed and informative analysis regarding European Union Common Agricultural Policy. And sir has rightly pointed out that there needs to be change in the policy of European Union on agriculture. So we will take questions at last. Actually, we are running short of time, so we'll take questions at last.